Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. We are live here from Happy Hour Bar and Grill. Thank you to Matt Call, thank you to Dave, the owner, for allowing us to come back for our second time. And we got a jam-packed show. We are excited to get into all local things, high school football around the area, talk some college, Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia, and of course some Atlanta Falcons if we have time. We got a great guest lineup we'll get into in a moment, but Richard, I'm excited about doing this again.
I am excited too. Back here at Happy Hour Bar and Grill, getting ready to talk some local sports.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go into the guest lineup. So coming up here, first off, will be Coach Ryan Nelson of the Glenwood Gators. We'll talk about his historic season. They're 8-0, just won a region championship against Autauga Academy. Last Friday, I was on the call with Rick Beach. We'll talk to him and two seniors, Camden White and Wesley Graham. By the way, Wesley Graham, Mr. Glenwood. So we'll talk to them and what they're so looking forward to having them on. Then from Coach Nelson, Wesley, and Camden, we're going to get into our top 10. So everyone likes lists, everyone likes top 10, and everyone likes you to rank who are the best high school teams in the Tri-City area. So what our top 10 teams are going to be from Auburn, Harris County, and everywhere around the Tri-City area. We came up with a list, me and you together, and we're excited to make that announcement today. And we are doing, we'll tell you how we broke the criteria down, a little bit different than most people do their rankings. After that, we'll have on Bichelli, athletic director, and CV Hoops founder, Corey Black. Basketball season's about to start. We got a big-time media day that we're going to be hosting, Richard, in just a few weeks. So we'll have Corey Black on at 7:30. And then we got Jonathan Hoppy from WTVM. We got Jack Patterson from WRBL to talk all things college football, high school, and more. So looking forward to having them on. And then we'll wrap it up with any questions from the audience if they have any. Again, we're excited. We're live here from Happy Hour Bar and Grill. We're on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I guess we're going to get into last week's win for the Glenwood Gators over Autauga Academy. Autauga came in the number 8 ranked team. Glenwood, the number 1 ranked team in AISA, and they took care of business in a mud bowl. It was raining. It was also misty. The field was never going to be dry. And remember, Glenwood is one of the few fields that uses grass. They don't use turf.
Right.
But they were able to take care of business and dominate Autauga big time.
I thought it was a very good win for Glenwood to beat an Autauga Academy team that was 5-2. Coming into the game, the field conditions were not ideal, but Glenwood did what they do best on offense, defense, and special teams. Dallas Crow, he had a good game. Carter Judah, and then you got to think of the defense with Camden White and Wesley Graham, which we're going to get to interview tonight.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Camden. He's the modern-day Travis Hunter for the Glenwood Gators.
Leading receiver and interception leader.
Leading receiver. He's also leads the team in interceptions. This guy's a phenomenal athlete. He's a do-it-all player. He also can run the football, too. There's not many things he doesn't do. He is a Swiss Army knife for the offense.
Absolutely.
I know Coach Nelson will talk about that when we have him on in a minute. But a big-time win for Coach Nelson. They clinched the number 1 seed. They got Morgan this week, and then they take on Chambers, who's in 1A. Glenwood, remember, is in 3A of the AISA. So excited to see the Gators clinch their region championship and clinch the number 1 seed. So big time for Coach Nelson. We'll have them on in just a moment. I want to talk about Smith Station and Auburn. Smith Station has not won a game this year. And I'm not meaning to laugh, but it's been a tumultuous season for a first-year head coach.
Brian Garrison, he is a former grad assistant under Coach Nick Saban, taking over for Coach Glisson. Smith Station only won 1 game last year. They beat Prattville. They never beat Prattville in their school history, and they haven't made the playoffs since 2014. This has been a rebuilding year, but I have to tell you, Thrift, calling the game with Michael Long Jr., the Carver head baseball coach, which did a phenomenal job. Once again, we're calling a game at TC Britton Field, Panther Stadium. Great fan base at Smith Station. They take the opening kickoff to the house. Aubrey Wimberly makes it 7-0. And this was a competitive game going into the 4th quarter. They were only down 28-14 to Opelika, but too much Roman Gagliano. You know, he kind of reminds me of Dallas Crow. Gagliano is one of the top quarterbacks in Alabama, and he likes to pass.
He's got a great name, too, Gagliano.
I love that name, and he's got some great weapons. Jamari Miller, great receiver. And Opelika gets the 42-14 win, and they are now 4-4. And right now, they are 4-2 in the region, and currently in third place, tied with Dothan. And Opelika takes on Enterprise this Friday.
Well, Smith Station, they kept it close, ended up losing 42-14. We're going to make an announcement where we're going to be this week. So on Thursday, it's Carver taking on Monroe. The Carver Tigers are playing for a region championship against Monroe, who are the Tornadoes.
The Golden Tornadoes.
Tornadoes. I was like, man, that's a unique
It's an awesome nickname.
But Monroe and Carver will be live at Otis Spencer Stadium. That's one region championship. Remember, we did one last week with Glenwood versus Watauga. Then on Friday, we got a doubleheader. I'll be at Harris County. They take on Northgate. If they beat Northgate, they pretty much have clinched the region. So that's for a region championship. And you will be senior night Calvary taking on Rock Springs. Calvary trying to go to 5-4 on the season. So that's what will be high school game day. Will be live from Danny Durham Field. Big time game for the Harris County Tigers. They take on Northgate. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring on the stars of the Glenwood Gators. First, we're going to bring on seniors Camden White and Wesley Graham. And then we're going to bring on head coach. And he likes talking off the cuff, so he does it straight from the heart. No preparation, he told me. Coach Ryan Nelson. Coach, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thank y'all so much for having us. I've got two phenomenal, not only athletes and players, but two great kids. Check Wesley's ACT. That's what I want you to do before you leave out of here.
No doubt about it. I know he is extremely smart. I knew his mom, because she has been the longtime principal, administrator at Glenwood. But let's first start with you, Coach Nelson. Let's talk about last week's win. How big of an accomplishment was it to win another region championship for the Gators?
Well, it's huge, and it's something we strive to go get. And to be 8-0 and clinch the thing that quick for us is really special. And we got a special group of seniors. We got a special team. I think the people that's inside our building and our locker room know that. And I'm just so blessed to be their coach, and I'm happy for our kids, all the work we've put in. And it's just a blessing for what they've done and the hard work they've put in. But to be 8-0, I said this last night on my show, to be 8-0 where we're at right now and to clinch the region championship and have the first round bye, we have set ourselves up, for success in the end. And but it's not over with. It's not at all. And we were back in the building this week, back at work, yesterday and today, and we got bigger goals.
Coach Dallas Crow has had a sensational season, 20 touchdown passes, 11 touchdown runs. What type of player, for all those college scouts and coaches out there that's scouting the Glenwood games, what type of player would they be getting in Dallas Crow?
I think, the first thing I see when I see that Dallas is, I about to say dynamic, but the first thing I see is dynamic. And I think he plays football.
I think a little too hot.
A little hot, right?
Let's try it again.
Here we go.
Let's try it again. Are we good?
Here we go. I don't think they can hear me.
All right, we're going to try this mic then.
All right. Mic check.
I promise you, this is not the first time we've done a show, ladies and gentlemen.
This is our second time.
What is this amateur hour going on right now? But we fixed it. We're good.
All right, we're good to go. Yeah, there we go.
Let's
All
do
right.
it again.
All right, so here we go. Back to Dallas. I think, you're getting a dynamic player, first and foremost. Not only, on the football field, but you're getting a great kid. You're getting a very smart kid when it comes to, football savvy and things like that. But Dallas can do it both. I've coached a lot of quarterbacks and sent them to major colleges in my career. I've been fortunate enough. I think I've sent 7 to Power 5 schools all over the country, from Stanford to Miami to LSU. So I've coached some good ones. And I tell everybody, he's right up there with them. And when it comes to football, he is a little short. Yeah, he is a little undersized and things like that. But the kid can ball. And I think the biggest thing for him is, being in the system 2 years in a row and understand. Now, when I yell him at practice, he just kind of looks at me and says, yes, sir, I understand what I did wrong. I got on him yesterday about turning the ball over. And so just, go back to your question, Richard. I think you're getting a guy that's a tremendous athlete that can do both. I apologize. I broke both mics. So, but again, you're getting a tremendous athlete that can throw it and run it, and I think you're getting a strong leader in him.
All right, so from talking about Dallas Crow, let's move over to the other two seniors right here. And first, I want to start with you, Wesley. You were honored as Mr. Glenwood. That's a pretty big accomplishment. So talk about what that meant to you to be selected from your peers to be Mr. Glenwood this year.
It's great that my school chose me. So I guess I'm doing something right. Got the people behind me. And another great thing about it.
No, you're good. You're good.
Another great thing about it is there's only been 3 other Mr. Glenwoods to win state title. And not only can I do that, I can go undefeated too. Undefeated and state child.
There we go.
What's better than that?
Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect statement right there, Wesley, and I'm hoping that it happens. All right, Camden, let's talk to you. One, I know your dad. I think he's here. Matthew, shout out to Matthew White, who's in the building right now. Camden, you're a do-it-all player. You start on both sides of the ball. We talked about it a minute ago. He leads the team in receiving. He also leads the team and one team leaders in interceptions. For one, do you ever get tired? Because you never come off the field. And two, which side of the ball do you like playing the most?
I'd say I'll never get tired. Coach does a great job of practicing us at a very high pace, and it keeps us very conditioned. So all credit to him on that. And it's a hard question coming from 2 years of starting on defense, and he moves me to the offensive side of the ball. And it's tough, getting stops on defense and laying hits, that's really fun. But I think scoring touchdowns is probably the most fun, so I'd say offense.
Okay, offense, yeah, because who doesn't like scoring touchdowns? But my man likes hitting people. There's no doubt about it. If you haven't seen any of Glenwood's games, you're seeing the young man right here, number 3, that is going to lay the boom on someone. All right, Coach Nelson, let's talk about last week. I know because of the weather, a little bit sloppy. You knew you were expecting that. Y'all ran the football a little bit more than you're used to because you seem more balanced. What are some of the things you want to correct this week? You talked about the turnovers, but what are some other things you want to get better as you head into the playoffs?
I think the biggest thing we addressed as a coaching staff this week were the penalties defensively. And we played outstanding defensively last Friday night. But, we get off the field, I think, 3 different times, and we have, after play or penalties on their sideline, late hits, personal fouls, things like that, face masks. And some things you can't control in football. Y'all know that. You're playing hard. You grab a face mask. It happens. But, when you're hitting guys late, out of bounds, and we're jawing a little bit to the other team, that's just stuff that little things from me that's going to get you beat in big ball games. Luckily, it didn't this past Friday. So we addressed that when we got in the building first thing with the coaches and then with the players. So we got to clean that up. But, like you talked about, we knew coming in all week the chance of rain, the field being muddy. We knew we had to run the football. We made it known to the receivers and the O-line. We had to run the football. And I said it last night. I told the receivers, you got to earn your money this week. You got to block. And that's what we had to do. And, able to get Cam some more carries this week. And he was dynamic running the ball. But my hat's off to Carter Judah, running back, O-line. And but most importantly for me this week, our defense played outstanding. We held that running back to 50 yards rushing. Very good player for them at Autauga. And I think we held him to 52 yards passing. So just an outstanding effort from Coach McConnell, his staff, Coach JJ, Coach Galen Smith, Coach Tyson Armstrong. And just, very pleased with us defensively and very pleased that, we were able to shut them out except for we gave up a late kickoff. And that happens sometimes.
All right, this question is for both of you. Let's start with you, Wesley. What are your plans after high school?
Right now I want to go play college football. Don't know where at yet. I'm going to visit the Berry this Saturday. But I don't know yet. Just college football somewhere.
Camden?
I think I'm right there with Wesley. I got to tag along on his visit to Berry. I had a lot of fun, and I think trying to just go play somewhere.
Yeah, listen, and I'm going to say this because we do have college coaches that watch, especially when we do basketball and football games. These are 2 unique individuals. Wesley wreaks havoc on the defensive side. Is he also an offensive tackle?
Yes, he played a lot more, O-line last year for us. Primarily that's what he did. But, going into this year, we had to have him at nose, and he knew that. We knew that as a football team because, for me, the biggest thing is everybody knows I'm an offensive guy. That's what I've done. But, I'm a head football coach. I understand football. And if you can't stop people, you can't win like I want to win.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And Camden, we talked about it. He's a do-it-all. You can get him on the defensive side. You can get him on the offensive side. He's not limited in what he can do. College coaches, please. We're hoping these 2 young men are finding somewhere to sign, especially after they win a state championship. I'm already going to put it in the air. They're going to win a state
That's the
championship
goal.
this year.
That's the goal.
And that definitely is
Absolutely.
the goal. All right, Coach Nelson, last question. Let's preview Morgan. Morgan was a team you upset last year in the playoffs to make it to the state championship game. They're having a little bit of a down year, but you're going on the
Well, to correct that, I don't know if we upset them because we beat them early in the year down there. So they came up and we beat them, but just, you know.
There we go. Okay. Thank you.
And the kids are looking a little crazy out there. I was like, you know, it's okay.
Right. All right, let's talk about Morgan, though, in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing about Morgan, you know, they only going to dress 25 players. So he's kind of, you know, had some struggles, get some players out this year. You know, they're not having a great season.
Yeah.
I think they're 1-7 right now. But, you know, I kind of got asked this question back when we played Valiant Cross, who hadn't won a game. For us, and you can ask these guys right now, our practices, you know, doesn't change. Like, we're at it this week. We got a bigger vision, a bigger goal than, you know, obviously we're preparing to win this game and go 9-0, but, you know, I tell the kids, you know, the ultimate thing for us is to try to get through these next 2 ball games, you know, be 10-0, that is a huge goal for us, but the ultimate goal is to win the state championship. And, like, we're a month away from the state championship game, and if we just sit here and coach for the next 4 weeks, we're not going to, when we get back in that game, it's going to happen like it did last year. We're going to look up and be down 21 points. So we are trying to do everything we can in our building, from the weight room, from walkthroughs, to installs, to practice, and just competing against each other. And I tell the kids all the time, if we'll compete at a high level on Monday and Tuesday, on Friday it'll be easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, it was like this when I was at another school. Sometimes the best games were on Monday and Tuesday because the level of competition is there. And that's one thing we've created. Glenwood is, and I ain't going to say it gets nasty on Monday and Tuesday, but there's a lot of competition between our offense and defense. And I ain't going to say it's hatred, but it gets each other better. So, you know, that's the level I want us to practice at. And we have fun with it, and it's competition, and but it's all good fun competition.
All right, Coach, I said that was the last question, but then forgot that we have breaking news today, by the way.
Yeah.
The Glenwood Gators are making a move next year to the AHSAA, so they're moving to the public school classification. This is for only athletics, not for academics. They're going to stay in the AISA. This is a big move. Coach, just a quick thought on that before we let
Well, you know, I hadn't really thought a whole lot about it. You know, I got the news today too. So, you know, I'm not the AD. They don't really ask my opinion on it. I'm the head football coach. So either way, we got to line up and find somebody to play game 1 next year. So we'll try to cross that hurdle when we get back from Christmas break and we kind of venture out, and you know, we'll see what we got to do. But you know, from what they told me, we'll be a 3A school. But you know, coming from a public school, that's all I've been my whole life. It's not much of a change for me. I mean, I've been there and done that, and you know, I'm kind of new to the private school the last 2 years. So I'm kind of going back to my old roots. But you know, it's football's going to be football. You know, you see good teams in AISA, you see good players. You're going to see good teams, good players in that league too. The playoff structure will change a little bit, with it being 5 weeks instead of just 3. So that will change, but you'll still have region play. Like I said, you know, I will say I think it will open this up a little bit to play a lot more local teams from Columbus and around this area where we don't have to travel as much. So I think that'll be a good thing for our program, and hopefully we can get a lot more fans, you know, in the stands and have a lot more bigger games, because you can go play the North Sides, the Shaws, the Carvers, people like that, and along with the Phoenix City Smiths and Valley. So, you know, we kind of draw a radius right there of 40 miles. There's a lot of teams that you can play where, you know, our region right now, I think we've made 3 trips this year over 3 hours. And so it's tough. And so, you know, but that'll help with spring sports too, with softball and baseball and basketball scheduling, things like that. So we'll see how it goes, and it'll be a new challenge for everybody at Glenwood, but we'll embrace it and have fun with it. And but you know, our process and how we prepare won't never change.
Never change. And by the way, bigger goals. You got to win a state championship.
Yeah.
We'll put that news in the back
Well,
burner right
you know,
now.
exactly.
Coach, thank you so much. Wesley and Camden, thank y'all so much for coming on. You're having a great senior season, and hopefully y'all come home with a ring. All right, from Camden White, Wesley Graham, Coach Nelson, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. This is the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show, live at Happy Hour Bar and Grill. Welcome back here, Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We're live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just got done talking with Coach Ryan Nelson, 8-0 in the season. I love his passion. I love his energy. I love how he's just straight from the heart. He's not one of those that's going to prepare speech. He's going to say straight from what it's inside of him. So thank you to Coach Nelson. Thank you to Wesley. Thank you to Camden. Looking forward to seeing them going to play at the next level. So college coaches, please be on the lookout for both those young men, and they have done a fantastic job this year, leading the Glenwood Gators to an undefeated season so far, ranked number 1. All right, we're going to have Coach Corey Black on in just a moment. By the way, it's $3 tacos here at Happy Hour Bar and Grill, so make sure you get some tacos. Plus, if you say GAS Live when you come to Happy Hour Bar and Grill between Monday and Thursday, you get 10% off your ticket. That's right, 10% off your ticket if you say GAS Live Monday through Thursday here at Happy Hour Bar and Grill. So thank you to Matt Call and Dave. And shout out to downtown Bobby Brown, who just walked in. And we got some great guests coming up, still left here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. So we talked about this a minute ago, Richard. We came up with our top 10. And we know we're going to ruffle some feathers around here. But we had to do it because everyone loves rankings. So we came up with our own ranking system. We are doing all teams in Auburn, Harris County, and the Tri-City area. Okay? And what we're doing is we're taking who is the most talented team with who has the best path to the state championship. So when you hear these rankings, yes, we're not going to say that maybe a Pacelli, who's a private school, can beat a 5A Northside. But that's not the way we're ranking them. We rank them on their roster set, how talented their roster is, and how easy of a path do they have to win a state championship. So first off, we're going to go ahead and start with a team that is literally 10 minutes the opposite direction of where we're at. And they play at Garrett Harrison Stadium. This is Central Red Devils. They're 7-0. They have dominated everyone they've been put in front of them. They got a big one this weekend with another team that's in our top 10. But Central 7-0. Andrew Alford has been putting on a show. He is showing why he is a dynamic quarterback. He came from Brookstone, but Patrick Dix, this is obviously his most talented team, and Central is number 1 in our rankings.
This truly is Coach Dix's most talented team. I believe that the Central Red Devils not only can compete for a state championship, but could possibly dethrone the 4-time state champion Thompson Warriors this year. Let's start with Andrew Alford. 25 touchdown passes. He's got weapons. We think of Cam Coleman, the number 1 recruit in Alabama, but he also has Dylan Gentry and Dalen Upshaw. He averages 266 yards passing a game. Central's got some great players on defense. We're one of the top players in Alabama. And
let me add that, Rich, you're talking about Dylan Gentry. That guy, him and Camden Wright, their games mirror each other so much. They're guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. They can run. They literally can do it all for the offense. So Central, ranked number 1, 7-0 in our rankings. I don't think anyone's surprised by that. But number 2, I'm trying to say this without laughing because I was looking at Coach Nelson when I was saying this. Number 2 is the Glenwood Gators. They're undefeated. They're 8-0. This is Coach Nelson. Obviously, he's only been there for 2 seasons, but this is his most talented team. In my opinion, this has been one of the more talented Glenwood teams in the last 20 years. They're trying to win a state championship for the first time since the early 90s. And if you look at path, that's what we're talking about, path. They're the number 1 seed in AIC. They're the number 1 ranked team. They're going to have home field throughout the playoffs. All you have to do is win 2 playoff games to win the state championship. That's why we have Glenwood as the number 2 ranked team in our rankings.
Also, Glenwood's number 2 because they've beaten 2 teams that are also in our rankings.
There we go.
You look at what Glenwood has done. The 3 teams they lost to last year, they turned around this year and beat those teams. They beat Pacelli, they beat Brookstone, and they beat Lee Scott Academy. Now, Glenwood, they cannot take their foot off the gas pedal. They got Morgan Academy, and then they got a non-region opponent, Chambers Academy, and then they get ready to start the playoffs. But they have been firing on all cylinders, and even when the weather is bad, they're still able to manage the game and make sure that they get the win, and that's what they did last week against Autauga Academy.
Yeah, Dallas Crow, 20 touchdown passes, 11 touchdown runs. He has been sensational. He is a Johnny Manziel, but without the off-the-field issues of the Glenwood Gators, if you like that comparison. Carter Judah's a fantastic running back. We talked about Camden White, Wesley Graham leading the team in sacks, and then you got Lamont Burton, who's been sensational as well. All right, let's do the number 3 ranked team in our rankings. It's a team that Glenwood beat right across the river. the Pacelli Vikings. Again, I know these are private schools, but if you look at Pacelli, they have won 7 straight since losing to Glenwood in the beginning of the season. They have been dominating everyone that's been put in front of them. Stratford, it doesn't matter if it's Gatewood. Last week, they were playing Strong Rock. That was a top 5 team. They have taken care of business, Tatnall Square, and they've won by double digits against every team they face. They're the number 1 team in GIAA. That's basically the AISA on the Georgia side. That's the private school division. And they're the number 1 ranked team. They're the number 1 ranked seed. And they are the favorite, just like Glenwood, to win back-to-back state championships this year in the Vikings. So that because of their path and a great roster, the Vikings are number 3.
Well, when you have a head coach in Dwight Jones, they're going to have a great team that can compete for a state championship. And Christian Brown comes in for Cam Ellis, who was all-world last year. He took the Superman cape on his back and won that game, the semifinal game against Brookstone. But Christian Brown has been stepping in, doing a great job. He's got 9 touchdown passes this year. I like the running back tandem of Corvée James and Jason Nelson, as that is a 1-2 punch combo. And then A.Z. Justy is the version of Camden White for Pacelli.
Or Mason McCrane, tall receiver that is a possession receiver.
Plays offense and defense. A.Z. Justy leads with 3 interceptions, and he also has 3 touchdown receptions as well.
All right, from Pacelli, now we're going to do our rest of our top 5, and then we'll finish out really quickly before we have on our next guest. Number 4, Harris County Tigers, the sleeping giant, the surprise team of the Tri-City area, who went 2-8 last year. Their best season in the last 20 years was 6-4. Well, guess what? They already got 6 wins in 7 games this year. Their only loss was to Troup County. They've won 6 straight. Harris County plays Northgate, but they also beat number 4 ranked Sandy Creek a few weeks ago. They beat Northside 2 weeks ago, 27-7. And if they beat Northgate, they will win their region for the first time in I don't know how long. Harris County, I know they're in 5A. I know they're a top 15 team. It could be a bit of a stretch if they were to win state. I hope they do. But looking at the other teams, looking at their roster, I had to put Harris County, and along with you, we had to put Harris County number 4, 6-1, fantastic season. Coach Tommy Watson has done a great job.
I believe fans up in Harris County have not been this excited about Harris County Tiger football since the 2013 days with Taquan Marshall and Trey Crowder, as that team was competing for a region championship. And they got a big one this week going up against Northgate.
Yeah, they do, and I will be there for that along with Rick Beach, so we can't wait. The winner of that wins the region, so make sure you tune in. Number 5, they were 2-3 at one point in the season. That is the Carver Tigers, the team up on the hill. They're 5-3, and if they win Thursday at the game we're calling against Monroe, they will be region champs, and they still have everything to play for. You look at 3A, it's pretty much up for grabs for the state, and Carver's losses are to Brookwood, who's a 7A team, Northeast Macon is a 2A team, and Hayfield Charter, that's a 4A team. None of those teams they're going to have to face in the playoffs. Carver Tigers and number 5.
When you think of Carver, you think of great running backs. So DeAndre Childs this year. You had Jamari Riley, Flip Creedle, Isaiah Crowell. But how about the defense? Courtney Kelly's got 10 sacks on the year.
Woo!
And you know that they're going to play hard. Head coach Pierre Coffey, he's got a defensive backs coach by the name of Damian the Nighthawk Daniels. We know him as the head football coach of the Columbus Lions. You know he's going to coach up his DBs. They really rely on their defense, and they smothered that Crisp County team on the road 24-7. And this is for the region. I was looking at the standings. The Monroe Golden Tornadoes, yes, that is their nickname, out of Albany, Georgia. They are 5-2.
Yep.
And Carver is 5-3. Carver's undefeated in the region at 3-0. And Monroe is 2-1. They already lost to Thomasville. If Carver beats Monroe, they will win the region. It does not matter what happens against Doherty the following week.
All right, Carver Tigers number 5. We'll go through 6 through 10 really quickly. Number 6, the Spencer Green Waves. Ever since being 1-2, they've won 4 straight. They play Northeast Macon this weekend on the road. If they beat Northeast Macon, they will win their 2nd consecutive region championship. Spencer, Gary Gaither's phenomenal. Their path is hard, but they are in 2A, and if they can get on a hot streak, I fully expect the Spencer Green Waves to win another region championship and maybe make a deep run. So they're number 6. Number 7, Lee Scott. Their only loss is to to Glenwood, not Auburn, but to Glenwood. And that I expect that to be the rematch of the state championship. So if Lee Scott wins out, they beat Glenwood, they'll be back-to-back state champions. Number 8, the Auburn Tigers. And Richard, I'll let you comment on these when I get through with them. Auburn, 6-1. They play Central. So number 1, Central. Number 8, Auburn. At Auburn this Friday night, Dana Barker, my good friend, he's going to be refereeing the game. You're talking about hostile environment and a rivalry of all rivalries. Auburn and Central this Friday night. Number 9, Northside, 4-4. Down year from last year. They're still going to make the playoffs. And if they can upset Drew and beat McIntosh, they'll be the number 3 seed. And who knows what can happen in the playoffs. And then I'm going to slip this in there. Flint River, shout out to Joe Howard and Flint River Academy. They're undefeated. They're probably going to win the GIAA 1A state championship. And then Chambers Academy, who Glenwood plays next week. And Chambers Academy from Lafayette, Jason Nelson, the former Glenwood Gators football coach, doing a great job there. Their only loss is to Lee Scott. I expect fully Flint River and Chambers to be vying for state championships. Quickly, Richard, any thoughts on those, our 6 through 10?
Well, Thrift, it's a good list. We put it together before this show, and I think that all these teams are great. I think Spencer has a tough road, Northeast, who beat Carver. They have to play them on the road. They also have to play Ace Charter on the road.
Yep.
And I also think that Auburn, they might be a little down this year. They had some close wins, a 28-27 win over Dothan, and then they had to come back from 13 down to defeat Opelika.
And then they barely beat, they lost to Enterprise by 1 as well. So Auburn and Central face. We're going to pick all these games that are happening this Friday on High School Game Day. Tune in. Richard, I don't know if you're going to go on a limb. Last time you picked against Central
every time.
Enterprise game, and they end up winning 48-7. All right, let's give some shout out to our sponsors before I bring on my next guest. Alliance Specialty Contractors, Masterwall, the Columbus Lions, Behringer Construction, Zaxby's, Farmers Insurance, the Menifee Agency, Auto Gallery Chevy Buick GMC in LaGrange, Alex Quinney Allstate Agency, Mike and Ed's, Morehouse School of Medicine, State Farm, Miss Carol Purdue, Shane Reagan and Reagan Insurance, Happy Hour Bar and Grill, the Pacelli Vikings, shout out to Roger Beck, and Moss & Sons. Thank y'all so much for all you do. All right, let's bring on my next guest. Good, longtime friend of mine. He's the AD of the Pacelli Vikings. He also is the founder of CB Hoops, and he does a lot for kids around the area to get them to play at the next level. It is my good friend, Corey Black. Coach Black, how are you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this, Coach. First things first, let's talk about what we've been doing these last couple of weeks before we get into your Vikings. The CB Hoops Prepper Practice Fall League has had basketball going on. So if you're not playing football and you're a basketball player, this is a great event for you. We've been broadcasting the games, and we just finished up this past week. So talk about this is year number 8 doing the Fall League, and talk about all the experience this year and how good it was.
Yeah, it was a really good league this year for our 8th year, and had teams from Auburn, Central, Columbus area teams that came out and they played their tail off and got the workshops, which I love the best about it. So it went really good.
Yeah, it did, and we had a lot of fun. We got to see Jacoby Hill. We got to see Tony Montgomery, great Central players, and Auburn and Central were co-champions. But talk about some of the speakers, because for people that don't know what the CB Hoops Prepper Practice Fall League is, when the kids get there, they have to sit there for 45 minutes and hear a speaker that is doing something successful in some profession and telling the kids that there's more to life than just playing basketball and having a plan in place on how they should be successful in life. So talk about the speakers that you had come and talk.
Yeah, we had a couple speakers come in. We had a judge, Pete Thieseman, come in and talk to him. We had a realtor, Jermaine Morgan, come in and talk to him. I had an educator, Javaris Bo Hamilton, come in and talk to him. So we had Charles Stone that played at Kennesaw State that played in the league. He came in and talked
Mike
to him.
Hops, Mike Jones.
Yeah, Mike Jones, the legend Mike Jones came in and talked to him. They gave them life lessons, so it went really good with the speakers this year.
Yes, it did.
Coach, talk about the other sports going on in the fall, how the football team doing, the flag football team for the girls, and the volleyball team.
Let's talk volleyball and flag. We'll go into football in just a moment. But flag football that has been, remember, they won state championship last year. So talk about the flag team, their coaches, and volleyball. They had their best season in history.
Yeah, volleyball had a great season. Made it to the Final Four for the first time in school history, led by Coach Jillian Scorenberg. She only had one senior, so we look for them to come back next year to have a really good season. Flag football off to a great start, 7-0.
Yep.
Got a huge matchup tomorrow against Lithia Springs and McEachern and Westlake, and led by Coach Cochran, and Jeremy Hayes helped coach that. So it's going pretty good so far.
Yeah, Jeremy Hayes. Love him, what he does for Viking Live, what he's done for me. But he's also a coach. And he gets into it, too. Trust me, I've seen him working. He's talking about he doesn't want to give up a point all season. He hasn't done it so far, but that is what he's doing on the defensive side for Pacelli Flag Football. Let's talk about the football team. Had a bit of a rock in the road, if you will, when they played Glenwood. Glenwood took care of business at home, but ever since then, this team has been on another level. They have eradicated all their mistakes. So talk about Coach Jones and this Pacelli Vikings team that many thought were going to be good, but I don't think they thought they were going to be this good and looking to win back-to-back state championships.
Yeah, we're off to a great start. I give credit to Coach Jones and his staff. I think they've made some adjustments since the Glenwood game. I think Coach Nelson woke us up over there when we came over here a couple months ago, and it was the best thing that happened to us all season, I think. And they made some adjustments, and that's why you go play good teams like a Glenwood. So if you don't get that game, you never know. You may be feeling yourself, and you get beat when you don't supposed to. But we're off to a great start, and hopefully we can go back-to-back.
Yeah, back-to-back, big win against Strong Rock, and they're 7-1. 2 more games where they play in the playoffs. But, Coach, we got a big event coming up, the Basketball Media Day, and that's coming up November the 5th. That's on a Sunday, and, football gets a lot of love around here. Everyone has their own media day that they do, but basketball doesn't get near as much recognition and exposure as it deserves. I know football's the king, but basketball, we got a lot of great players to go on and play the next level. So we started the media day last year. So why is this something you wanted to start and continue on now for the second year?
Just to get the kids some attention, get them some love. The ones that just play basketball, to get them in front of some media, get some people, just show them some love, get them excited about the start of the season. So just another thing that we can do, thanks to y'all too, that's going to come out and help us and your crew, just to get these kids some attention.
Yeah.
Coach, talk about the athlete today and the recruiting, like the opportunities that athletes have to be live streamed and the exposure they get from live streams, and just the recruits that actually go out and they recruit these athletes.
Yeah, and I just want to tag on to that. Good question, Richard, but I want to tag on to that. You talk to a lot of college coaches around the area. You talk to coaches that come in all the time, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, it doesn't matter. What are they looking for in the modern athlete, and what do players need to do to get recruited? Because with the transfer portal, it's hard for seniors to get recruited. So talk about that element if you can.
Yeah, they're looking for first talent. You got to be good enough.
Right.
Then they check that box. They look at your character. And you check that box. They look at your grades. And you can check those boxes, and you still got some more boxes to check. But those are the first 3 things they look at: talent, character, grades. And if you're good enough in those 3 boxes, you got a chance to get recruited. But you got to work. With the transfer portal, it is hard right now. But, that's part of it. You just got to work even harder to get recruited.
Yeah, you do. And we're hoping that with CB Hoops, you have CB Hoops, by the way, for those who don't know. It's a great opportunity for exposure camps to get unsigned seniors. Myself, my brother, we played in these camps. It allowed us an opportunity to go play at the next level. So when do you have your next exposure camp? I'm assuming it won't be till after the season.
Yeah, it'll be in the spring after basketball season is over, so in the March, April area.
Okay, well, Coach, last question. Again, thank you so much for your time. I love you, Coach. Vikings basketball, I'm the play-by-play announcer last year. I'm going to be the play-by-play announcer this year for girls and boys. When does your season start? I know you're excited about it. You came just close to winning a state last year. You returned a lot of talented players. I saw them in the fall league. So talk about what your upcoming schedule is as you head into the season for basketball.
Yeah, we just do our workouts every day, 5 a.m. workouts, go to class, do study hall for an hour, come back in the afternoon and work out for another 2 hours. So we just do that, pretty much till football season is over, because we don't play any games before football. So we just keep them working and keep them focused right now.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for Bryant and allowing us to come and live stream everything that's going on for CB Hoops, and we'll see you later on. That is Coach Corey Black, the AD of Pacelli Vikings, and the CB Hoops Perfect Practice CB Hoops founder. He has done so much for my career, whether it be in broadcasting or in also my playing career in basketball. So thank you so much to Corey Black for coming on, and thank you everyone that's tuning in. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have Jonathan Hoppe and Jack Patterson, WRBL and WTVM, in the building to talk high school sports, Auburn, Georgia, and Alabama. I'm going to shout out to Cal Slappy as he's looking at me right now. Thrift and Richard, Georgia, Alabama Sports Live. We'll be back after this. Since I'm giving shout-outs to everyone, thank y'all for tuning back in. I'm going to shout out to Chris Woods. I don't know if he's still here, but that's my former teammate at Glenwood. We rocked it out my senior year. Love Chris. Glad I was able to see him. But Thrift Behringer, Richard Holges, Georgia, Alabama Sports Live from Happy Hour Bar and Grill. It's Taco Tuesday night. LeBron, don't sue me. I know you patent that. I'm just giving a shout out to Taco Tuesday here. But we're about to have on our next guest in just a moment. I got to make a special announcement. The Sports Visions Awards Luncheon that's had guys like Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, and other great guests, Dabo Swinney, Gus Malzahn, to come and speak at our awards luncheon. We got another big one. Hugh Freeze, the Auburn Tigers' new football coach, will be speaking at the Sports Visions Awards Luncheon. So guys like Coach Ryan Nelson, all the great coaches around the area, the top players, they will be there and be able to see Hugh Freeze speak. Last year we had Kirby. The year before was Nick Saban. So big time announcement, Sports Visions radio show with me and DJ Jones. You can listen Monday and Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. on 92.1 Smooth R&B and the Sports Visions Facebook page. This was a huge announcement, and so glad that DJ was able to pull it off. It's pretty incredible. Nobody's pulling guys like Hugh Freeze, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart to come down here and speak to these kids like DJ Jones, and I'm glad to be a part of the Sports Vision scene. All right, let's go ahead and bring on our next guest. It's two guys that I love dearly. Both of them are sports directors. Both of them are colleagues of mine, and they hate each other. They're rivals because it's two different stations. It's WRBL's Jack Patterson and WTVM's News Leader 9, Jonathan Hoppy. How are y'all guys?
Hey, man, we're
That's
good.
an opinion. The whole News Leader 9 thing, that's an opinion. I kid.
So many things I could say to that, but so good to be with you guys.
Well, thank y'all so much for coming and joining us, guys. I know y'all are busy. We got high school softball going on right now. Shout out to all the teams that are still playing. Columbus, Northside, Harris County, hopefully are able to win championships this year. But, guys, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We have our top 10 that we made an announcement about, guys, and I'm just going to read off the top 10 and just give me your thoughts quickly before we move on to the other stuff. Number 1, we had Central. Number 2 is Glenwood, and the way we rank these teams is talent and easiest path to a state championship. With Glenwood being the number 1 seed, obviously they're the favorite to win the ISC. That's why they're number 2. Number 3 is Pacelli. Same thing. They're the favorite in the GIAA. 4, Harris County. 5, those Carver Tigers. 6, Spencer Greenwave. 7, Lee Scott. 8, Auburn. 9, Northside. And 10 is Flint River and Chambers Academy. I know we don't have Sly in there. We're only doing Auburn, Harris County, and the Tri-City area teams that we've covered this year. Guys, I'll start with you, Hoppy. Give me your thoughts on those rankings.
Yeah, first off, I want to add two huge news today with Lee Scott and Glenwood going to the AHSAA. We had heard about it, and now for it to be confirmed by the Central Board, that is big because when you look at that list, you do have a few private schools represented, but in Alabama specifically, Glenwood and Lee Scott, I can't wait to see what they can do. We'll see what classification they're put in later this year. But it looks like a solid list to me. It's really exciting, like you said, to have so many teams that can compete for state titles. When you have Auburn at number 8, to me that's a little low. But I think it speaks to some of the greatness that's toward the top of the list. And I think on most years Auburn would be a little bit higher. And who knows, if they win Friday night, I'm sure they'll skyrocket up your ratings.
They might have something to say about that Friday night.
No doubt about it.
It looks pretty good to me, Jack.
All right, and Jack, before you get on, because we are going to talk about this, so hold off on the Glenwood, because then I want to go back to Hoppy and really dive into that move for Glenwood and Lee Scott. But talk about the rankings right now. I know Harris County about to play for a region championship. Carver plays for a region championship Thursday. Spencer plays for a region championship on Friday. Got a lot of big games. Auburn Central. Do you like the list?
I'm kind of with Hoppy here is that you could nitpick, but it's like, who do you move?
Got a lot of great teams.
That's the thing. Who do you move?
And remember, we're doing best path to win. And if I have Central number 1, it's hard to put Auburn up there higher than everyone else because I think Carver has a better chance than Auburn does to win a state championship.
This is what I would do going by those rules. I would put Glenwood over Central specifically because
a good point.
I like I think Glenwood's path to a state title goes through Lee Scott, who they've already beaten this year, and I think Central's path to a state title likely goes through Thompson, who has beaten everybody the last 4 years.
That's a good point, Jack. And one of the criteria when we came up with this list, we kind of narrowed it to Phoenix City, Columbus, Harris County area. We could have put Schley County, we could have put Troup County, we could have put Lochapoka, but yeah, those are great teams. But like the teams that we cover for Georgia Alabama Sports Live, I know that you and Hoppy. I mean, you go all the way to Schley County, and then you cover Eufaula. I mean, there's a lot of great teams in the Chattahoochee Valley. But yeah, we just narrowed down this list.
All right, Hoppy, let's go with you first, and then we'll go to Jack. We talked to Coach Nelson. He really didn't have much of an opinion, but I did, and I'm glad I just thought about that as I pull up my handy-dandy iThrift, as Josh Pate likes to call his phone. I'm going to pull out the iThrift right now. And Coach Tim Fanning wanted me to say this quote to all our listeners out there. While our time in the AISA has been tremendous, and y'all probably got this same statement, we are super excited at the opportunity to compete in the AHSAA. We believe that this gives our student athletes the best platform to showcase their abilities while allowing us as a community to show the rest of the state how amazing the Glenwood family truly is. So with that being said, talk about this move for Glenwood and Lee Scott heading to the public school to play those teams in the AHSAA.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Over the past few years, we've seen a lot of teams in the AISA leave to go to the AHSAA. So when you look at what's left now, it was really important for these teams to leave. The competition they're going to face is just going to be much stronger.
Right.
And not that it's not impressive what they're doing right now, but if you look at the list of schools that are in the AHSAA versus the competition they're facing right now, it's really night and day. And it gives them the opportunity to really show, like Coach Fanning said, what the Glenwood family is all about. It's just a bigger pool. It's a bigger opportunity for both programs.
Closer teams in proximity, they get to play.
Yeah, the matchups that you can list, the region matchups, it's going to be so interesting to see what that looks like.
Right.
And I think it's a great move for not just football, for baseball, for basketball, all sports making it over. I know both schools have been looking into this. Like I said, other schools have made that transition, and they fit right in. It does. Jack, you're someone that you've been around this area for a long time. Where does this leave the AISA now?
Oh my God!
What's left for them?
I mean, that's a really good point, Hoppy. And I mean, you look at where Class 3A. Think about Class 3A in the AISA.
Right.
There's not even regions. Like, we know that Glenwood just won the region championship and well deserved, but it's more of a classification championship because there's not separate regions in the Class 3A because there's so few teams left in that classification. It's really just 2 classes, and then you have the bigger schools in one class. So honestly, I think it's the best move for both Glenwood and Lee Scott, and also Otago Academy is also going to the AHSA as well. Okay. So that's 3 3A teams in an already very slim classification. So I don't know if they just combine 3A with 2A and that's that for the AISA, because we're still going to have AISA teams. We still have Lakeside down in Eufaula. We still have Chambers Academy. We still have Springwood and 8-Man. So we still have AISA teams, but it's definitely going to be different. And I really think that, just like Oppie said, this is an opportunity for both of those programs. Not only you're going to play better competition day in and day out, you're going to play closer competition because you're not going to have to go down to Mobile for region games. You'll be able to, assuming they'll probably be in maybe 2A. I won't say they will be in 1A just because of the competitive balance factor for the private schools.
I've heard that they might be 3A.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll find out that in December when they actually have the reclassification. If it's 3A, you have Beulah, you have Dadeville.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 2A, you got Lynette, and who knows where they go after reclassification.
Exactly. So there's a lot up in the air. I can't wait. I'm a bracketologist nerd anyway.
Jack,
so I can't wait for it.
I know in football, I know it's going to be tough with the matchups. I mean, really, down the road, Smith Station, Central, Russell County. But can you imagine a baseball matchup between Glenwood and Central? Or Smith Station and Glenwood? That would be
I'm here for it.
Absolutely incredible.
Sign
me up.
I am here for it. If you put Glenwood against Smith, Glenwood against Central, Glenwood against Auburn, You know, a lot of people might think that's a mismatch on paper, but it's absolutely not.
Not in baseball.
Not in baseball. It's different in baseball than basketball and football.
Absolutely not. It would be a marquee matchup that would have everybody's attention around you.
All right, let's do this, guys. I'm going to put you on the spot, but I don't want you to rank them, okay? Throw out rankings. Just start giving some shout-outs to some of the top players that y'all have seen this year. Jack, we can start with you. We had two great players on in Wesley Graham and Camden White for Glenwood. So talk about some of the best players you've seen that you've covered this year so far.
Well, I'll go with another Glenwood player, Dallas Crow, the quarterback. He's been fantastic for the Gators this year. When you needed somebody to step up for him, he's been there. And, you know, year 2 under Coach Nelson's system, he's paid dividends for him. So I would definitely say Dallas Crow. I would say Andrew Alford and Cam Coleman from Central. Both of them have been fantastic. That offense has been setting records. And, you know, we've always known Central to be kind of like a run-first offense.
Right.
But we've seen them pass more than we have seen in recent years. And that's courtesy of the receivers that they have, and it's courtesy of the quarterback that they have. So I would say those two. I'll go down a little bit, go down to give the smaller schools some love as well. I'll go down to Corvée James at Pacelli. He's been a bell cow for Pacelli. He's been fantastic.
And he's fast as lightning, too.
Exactly. Kingston Rivers at Northside. He's been great. That truck stick he did on that Westover player a couple weeks back, he'll be one of the plays of the year that I remember. And, you know, and we could go on and on. You know, I'm talking about, you know, I haven't, you know, like I said, like we said earlier today, we cover Manchester and Sly, so we haven't talked about Jake Hanazawa and Jalewis Solomon. We haven't talked about Justice Terry. You know, we haven't talked about, you know, Teo Todd before he got injured. We haven't talked about Logan Sinkfield since he's taken his place. You know, we haven't talked about any of those guys.
Right.
So, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but that's just some of the few.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, let me try to say some names that Jack did. I mean,
There we go.
rattled off quite a few, and as deserved. There's a lot of good talent. First, Cam Coleman. I'll repeat him because I think in a few years we'll look back and say, wow, he was a central. I mean, this cat is a top 10 recruit.
Easily.
There's a reason why everybody wants him.
Will he stick with A&M? I mean, it is crazy. Everybody wants him, and he is a phenomenal player. But
Yep.
big tip of the cap to Andrew Alford for getting him the rock, and so many other guys, Dalen Upshaw, as you were talking about earlier, Richard. I'd say AZ Justy sticks out for Pacelli.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Matei Yeoman.
Yes.
Up at Harris
You better
County.
give Yeoman the love, man. That's the
Absolutely.
bus right
He
there,
is
baby.
fantastic.
That is, and great story too. Tommy Watson told us he didn't even know that he was a running back until late in the season. You know, they were terrible last season.
Yes.
I'll tell you that. Late in the year, they put in Yeoman at running back. Someone told Coach about it, and all year they trained him up for it, and he has been such a weapon for them. Levi Watson, Red Ogletree up
Right.
there. Just some of the names that stick out to me. Jalewis Solomon,
Yeah.
as Jack mentioned, in Sly County. There is some great talent. And don't forget about Gary Gaither, some of those guys
Yes.
down at Spencer.
Yeah.
We're not really, last thing I'll say on this, we're not really talking about Carver or Spencer. It seems like they've kind of slid under the radar.
And they're
this year.
playing for region championship.
Right.
But because they both had losing records earlier in the year, and that's why we
And
sort of
Carver
forgot about
hasn't
them.
been home a lot. Sometimes, especially in Jack and I's, and you guys too, just
Yeah.
being around here, they haven't been home a lot, and it seems we'll get a good look at them in an isolated slate on Thursday, so that's going to be awesome. But yeah, Spencer, Carver right in the mix. Don't forget about some of those guys as well. Carver's had some injuries and some different problems, but they're right in it.
Yeah, they are. All right, guys. I'll start with Hoppy on you this question, and then Richard, you can ask the other two teams right here. We'll start with Carver and County. You just talked about the Carver Tigers take on Monroe. They were 2-3. They lost 3 straight games to Hayville Charter 4A school, Northeast making a 2A school, and Brookwood a 7A school. Since then, they've won 3 straight, and they play a huge one at home against Monroe. And then Harris County plays Northgate. The winner of that pretty much is in the lead in the driver's seat for that region, pretty much the region championship. So talk about the preview of those 2 games this week.
Yeah, let's start with Carver. I think this is going to be awesome to see what they can do. I mentioned it briefly a moment ago. Some injuries, some weird things have happened on that team this year that we're not really accustomed seeing Carver go through. That being said, Otis Spencer Thursday night.
It's going to be
What
packed.
do they have? and that is so exciting for us to get a look at them and see what Coach Coffey can bring out against a solid Monroe team. I can't, like I said, it feels like they've just slipped under the radar.
Right.
Do not forget about them to make another deep run, because that's all they've done since I've been here.
Right.
Harris County's interesting. A really good team. They've played some tough opponents, but 5A just is kind of different.
It's tough.
It's different, and they beat Northside. I think Northside is clearly down a little bit this year as opposed to what we saw last year. They still have Caden Clay, but they lost Malachi Hosley, some other key pieces. So I've doubted Harris County just because they were not good last year.
No.
And they have completely flipped it. And when they won that big game a few weeks ago,
Sandy Creek.
ahead of the Northside game, picked both of them off. If they can win this against Northgate, they're at home. Why not?
Why not?
So at this point, I'm not betting against Harris County, and 5A is tough. Let's get the region championship first. If they can do that, I mean, gosh, just keep the train rolling.
And I'm going to piggyback real quickly. Carver, again, 2 and 3, like you talked about, they've overcome some injuries. They've overcome some bugs and fixed their offense the way Coach Coffey wanted them to be. Big one against Monroe. If they win that, they go 7 and 3. Why can't they get hot and make it to a state championship run? Second, Harris County, sleeping giant. They always had the talent, but they've never had the season to showcase all the talent they have, because Harris County is a growing school. They've gone from 2A 10, 15 years ago to now being 5A, and they're only getting bigger. If they beat Northgate, who blew out McIntosh a few weeks ago, Northgate is ranked higher than Harris County. That will be pretty much solidifying. They're going to win the region and finish 9-1 on the season, and that's the best in Harris County history. But, Richard, let's talk about the other two games that are going on around the area that are big.
Well, normally this matchup is typically the game of the year. Central and Auburn, they always meet in the playoffs. In fact, they met in the semifinals last year. Auburn won the game 14-13. This time Central plays Auburn at the Duck, but does it seem like this is kind of a down year for Auburn, even though they're 6-1? I mean, they barely beat Dothan. They lost it.
Jack shaking his head.
Yeah,
No,
close.
I'm thinking Central is all world. Andrew Alford, they're firing all cylinders, but they have to go up to the Duck. Does Auburn have a chance to win this game? I mean, how is this game looking? Does it look like a win for Central, or can Auburn pull off the win?
Auburn can absolutely win this game. Absolutely. If you underestimate Auburn, that is your fault.
And then they're at home.
Now, granted, Central went to the Duck 2 years ago and beat Auburn, okay? So it can be done.
Coach Ryan Nelson's shaking his head right now at you, Jack Patterson. He turned around. He didn't want you seeing it. He said, no chance.
Here's the thing, Jack. Their stats don't come off the page. Jackson Kilgore has only had 2 touchdowns. Omar Mabson, he is a good running back. And Auburn really solidifies themselves on defense. They were able to come back against Opelika down 13.
Exactly. We're talking about a team that has proven they can come back against tough teams. That same Opelika team that gave Central a fight a couple weeks ago. Like I said, when you have a home field advantage, and Patrick Nix will tell you this before I will, that his region is a gauntlet, okay? There's no such thing as an easy game in that region, okay? Even though there might be a couple. But realistically, when you're at the upper echelon of that region, when you're talking about the Central, Auburn, Enterprise, Dothan, Opelika, okay, when you're talking about those teams, you're talking about 5 teams that probably any other region would be competing for region championships. One of those teams are not going to make the playoffs this year.
I want to back you up because I know that might seem like a hot take. So let's make this clear. I've been here for 3 years. Since I've been here, it does appear on paper that this matchup is as uneven as it's been, meaning if there were a hypothetical spread here, I think Central is a pretty big favorite. But you cannot come close to counting out Auburn High School based on what they've done. It's supposed to have Davis Harson as their quarterback, right? The Harson family leaves Auburn, leaves them blank out of luck. They got nothing.
Exactly.
And then I think as the story goes, and don't quote me on this, I think they had someone, and then that quarterback got hurt, and then now they have Henry Allen. This is such a gritty team to beat Hoover, lose to Enterprise. I would not feel strongly. Central is the better team. I do think that. But boy, this is, and it's funny you say that because if Auburn had lost to Opelika, this game it wouldn't really mean that much.
But you also look at if Auburn doesn't lose to Enterprise, and remember that was a field goal game.
This is a top 2 matchup.
This is the region championship. It still might be the region championship.
Yeah.
But this would be unequivocally the region championship, and you're probably talking number 1 versus number 2, or number 2 versus number 3.
All right.
Still massive.
Still a massive game, and I know y'all are going to both be covering it. Let's move on real quickly. We'll give a shout-out. Joseph Kager and the Spencer Greenways play on the road against Northeast Macon. If they win that, gentlemen, I'm just going to make the statement out there, they're probably in the driver's seat to win another region championship, so we're cheering for those Spencer Greenways. I want to do something unique and fun. I know I gave y'all the questions, but I want to do hot take. All right, I want your best Stephen A. Smith. I want you coming in. I want you firing up some Alabama fans here, some Auburn fans, some Georgia fans. Those are the 3 teams we're about to hit on. Let's start with Auburn. I'm going to say it right now. I don't know if Auburn makes a bowl game this year. Give me your hot take. If I'm putting you on the spot, but give me your hot take with Auburn and Hugh Freeze.
Auburn beats Alabama in the Iron Bowl.
There's a hot take right there.
I think it happens, I was at that LSU game. You didn't have to be there to know how bad it was. I mean, it was brutal. And Coach Freeze has said as much, and people are really questioning that group and the competitive fire they have. I think they beat Ole Miss this week. I do. This is, to me,
Big game.
Is like a must-win game. It really feels that way to me because if you lose to Ole Miss, who's really good, you're talking about 0-4 in the SEC. Man, that is really bad.
That's brutal.
I think the intensity in the building is going to be huge this week. Everyone's questioning that group. After the game, they all talk about how they're still optimistic. There's still a lot to play for. Jordan Hare at night, give me Auburn over Ole Miss.
There we go. There's a bit hot take.
Hugh Freeze's old team, too. He's played them before, played them when he was at Liberty, but still, Hugh Freeze against Ole Miss. I'm not a big Ole Miss. I mean, Lane Kiffin, to me, has been really good but not great. There's always been some blemishes. I think Auburn's going to win. And I know Jack's probably going to want to talk about Georgia. Man, I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned about the Brock Bowers injury.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Richard, you can go first, and Jack. Brock Bowers, losing him, and then Hoppy, you can hop in too once they're done. When you lose Brock Bowers, who single-handedly beat Auburn, remember that. If there is no Brock Bowers, Auburn upset Georgia a few weeks ago. So talk about losing them. Does this derail Georgia's chances of being the first 3-peat national champion in over 80 years?
Devastating injury, a high ankle sprain. He did have surgery. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Some people say he's going to be out for the season. I'm an optimistic guy. I think he should be back for the SEC championship. But Georgia's got to get there. They got to beat Tennessee in Knoxville. They got to beat Ole Miss in Athens. The Florida game, they got the bye this week. They're playing Florida. And Jack, you're a Georgia fan. You know that Florida's always tough. Look at 2002. Georgia was a heavy favorite, and here comes a Ron Zook team that upsets, an unranked Florida team upsets Georgia. So this Georgia-Florida game is always crazy. And not having Brock Bowers for this game is going to be huge. They're going to have to rely heavily on Oscar Delp, and Lad McConkey is going to have to step up. Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovely, these transfers that came over, Georgia, Carson Beck is going to have to open up the passing game and not rely on the tight end.
So, number one, thanks a lot for taking my pick, Hoppy, because I surely was going to say that Auburn was going to beat Alabama.
Hot take.
Because stupid things happen in Jordan-Hare Stadium whenever they
You can't explain them.
Whenever they play Georgia and whenever they play Alabama. We saw the stupidity against Georgia. They almost won. Against Alabama, a team that hasn't been as consistent as they should be. Huh?
He pulled up the 4th and 18. I thought he was going to say 3rd and Grantham, but that was the old saying back then. Go back to the Brock Bowers question, though, Shaq.
Chris better be lucky I lost.
Shout out to Chris Gates, the producer. Clap it up for Chris Gates, our producer. He's the one that made all this possible. We're live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Let me, quick side note. For those of you who don't know, Chris used to work at WRBL. He is the guy that trained me when I got hired at WRBL in 2013. So
hey, that explains a lot.
I'm not here if it's not for him. So once again, and Copy, you're right. That explains a lot. But back to this. the story at hand. So we're going to talk about Georgia. We're going to make hot takes. I'll give you a hot take. Georgia runs the table.
Undefeated without Brock B.
They've run the table.
Is this the Georgia fan coming out in you, or is this hot take Stephen A. Smith, Jack Patterson?
It's possible. And this, fandom aside, okay? Fandom aside, because I don't let my fandom interfere with my job.
There we go.
So
you're a true professional.
Fandom aside, it's possible, okay? But it does require Carson Beck. He's got to cut down the interceptions, okay? You can't have interceptions like he had against Vandy. It just won't work, okay? It requires the run game to come back and be effective. So it requires Dejon Edwards to stay healthy. It requires Cash Jones to make a bigger impact. It requires your wide receivers. So we're talking about Ra Thomas. We're talking about Lat McConkey. He's got to stay healthy.
Right.
Dominic Lovett. You need those guys to stay healthy. You need Oscar Delp to make an impact. He was one of the top recruits coming into this class. He's got to show it. Okay? So it's possible. I won't say it's likely, but it's possible. And I feel like that as long as Georgia doesn't lose a game they're not supposed to lose, they'll still be in the running for the playoff and for the national championship. Don't go losing to Missouri, okay?
Exactly.
Don't lose to Missouri. Don't lose. I would say probably don't lose to Ole Miss. Definitely don't lose to Georgia Tech. But if you lose to Tennessee, I don't think it's the end of the world. Tennessee is, especially if Tennessee beats Alabama this week.
I'm surprised you didn't say, well, when you play Georgia Tech, at least kneel the ball. And if you kneel the ball, you'll probably beat them. Shout out to Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. And I'm surprised.
Still one of the stupidest things I've ever seen on the football field.
No doubt about it. Coaching malpractice. I know Coach Ryan Nelson, he would never pull a stunt like that. Jonathan, I'm surprised you didn't say Syracuse winning out and winning the national title with 3 losses. Dino Babers, shout out to Syracuse. Listen, the Orange Men are doing what they're supposed to do, which is be competitive, win 6, 7, 8 games this year. But obviously the Orange are never going to win national titles. I didn't want to make the Syracuse segment.
What's next on the rundown here?
All right, let's go to Alabama, the last team.
How do we pivot to ACC football and mediocre ACC
We don't
football?
want to go there. We don't want to.
All right, so we'll stay out of the ACC. Shout out to Florida State and North Carolina. They're having great seasons. Alabama beating A&M. I thought that was the toughest roster and toughest team they're going to face on the road in that environment the rest of the season. They do got to play Auburn at the end of the year, but Auburn, we don't know about them. They're 500, and I think obviously Alabama will be a double-digit favorite. But Alabama, they play Tennessee at home. They got LSU at home. Do they win out? Are they going to be in the SEC championship game again, huh?
It feels like, I just said they're going to lose to Auburn, but it feels like, I don't know. I believe that LSU is the toughest test for them left on the schedule. And if they get past Tennessee and LSU, man, it feels like people that were panicking about Alabama early in the season, they were wrong. I don't think they do, though. I'm still a doubter based on some of the stuff I've seen. I don't think they beat LSU at home. I think they beat Tennessee this weekend, but I don't see it.
Bobby, I think Alabama's defense, you got to take it back to the early 2010s when they were absolutely dominant when Kirby Smart was their defensive coordinator. Teams that had a spread offense that can move the ball in Alabama had success, but you've got to make the throws. You've got to have a player like Jake Fromm just throwing darts into tight windows. I just don't think there is a quarterback in the SEC that's capable of putting the team on its back. And
Jaden Daniels is pretty good.
Yeah, if there's one quarterback that can do it, it is Daniels.
LSU doesn't really have a defense, but, that means
that's also true.
Jalen Milroe has to have, an incredible game.
Hey, they held Auburn to 18 points.
Yeah, well, that's not a hard feat.
Career day for Auburn.
But honestly, I kind of with Hoppy that, I do think Bama beats Tennessee. I think it'll be a great game, but I think Alabama comes out on top. But I don't think that Alabama comes out on top against LSU. I think that LSU's...
What a game that's going to be.
Oh, it's
going to be a bloodbath.
It's not going to be a bloodbath. It's not going to be the traditional, one in the trenches game that you see from Alabama.
It's going to be a high-scoring game.
I think this is going to be a shootout.
Kind of like 2019 with Tua and Joe.
I think this is going to be, it's not going to be because in 2019, I was at that game. Both teams had great defenses, okay? It was the quarterbacks making plays. It won't be like that on in a couple weeks, okay? It will be the offenses. It will be the lack of defense. that is the difference in that game.
Yeah.
I think LSU has more playmakers than Alabama does. I think that's the difference.
All right, we're gonna. Me and Hobby were just talking right here because.
I want to vent about the Braves.
Yeah, and you can, and I'm gonna let both of you have an opportunity. The Atlanta Braves, historic season, 104 wins, one of the best offensive seasons in the history of baseball. But when it comes to the Philadelphia Phillies, this team is a glorified JV high school baseball team. And they couldn't hit. Ronald Acuna, MVP season, batted 100 in the NLDS for the second straight year. So talk about the Braves and then the Falcons. I mean, it was just a bad weekend. You got the Braves getting in the NLDS. The Falcons are 3-2. They play the Commanders, who are not a great team. They win that. The Falcons are top first place in NFC South. And guess what? Desmond Ritter says, no, I think I want to give this game to the Commanders. So, Hoppy, start with you. Vent about the Braves and Falcons. I'm going to let Jack seethe for a minute before he talks about his team.
Take a couple of deep breaths. I don't have much to say on the Falcons. I think what we talked about 2 weeks ago, Ritter's not the guy.
He's not.
They have some problems. But so do the Panthers, and they're 0-6. Now, also 2 weeks ago,
You had to throw that in
we all sat up here and said, is it World Series or bust for the Braves?
We did.
And what we agreed on is if they don't get to the World Series, they don't necessarily have to win it, but if they don't get to the World Series, it's a fail. They lost in the NLDS. Game 4. Couldn't even get to a Game 5.
And really lucked into the Game 2 win.
Completely disheartening. I was lucky enough to be at Game 2, one of the best playoff games, best comebacks they've had in the playoffs ever. You thought that would carry over. I can't even tell you how disappointing it is for me that this team is eliminated. Something just felt off. It felt like in that series, I'm not going to say they didn't want to be there. It kind of felt like they weren't in it. It just felt different, and I know people that were in the locker room after the game, and it just had a different feel than it did last year when they were eliminated. I don't know what was different, and I just rest in peace to the Braves. Man, Jack, I know we both had extensive plans to go up there and cover a World Series, and it's crazy as we were writing in dates. Okay, Division Series. We know they've got home field. NLCS Game 1, Game 2. It all felt, especially the LCS, it felt like a lot. I mean, at one point, this is inside baseball. At one point, I even thought about not covering the NLDS and just putting resources to the championship series. That would have been a mistake because we would have never have gone up there. And I know Jack, unfortunately, didn't get to go either to a game because they were eliminated so early. Complete disaster. Couldn't be more disappointed.
Yeah, so Hoppy touched on a lot of great points. So a little bit more inside baseball is that, we were planning on that. And I did go up there. We did a special up there. Okay, so I was up.
You didn't get to a game, though.
Yeah, I didn't cover a game. I let Tyler go up there, and thank God I did, because otherwise he wouldn't have gotten to cover a game. And, and just as well as I do, Tyler's about as much of a diehard Braves fan as it comes. So,
I was sitting next to him for Game 2. He was going crazy, like, man, they're going to come back. They're going to come back. And I'm like, dude, it's over. Sure enough, they came back. But then it was over.
I don't know what it is. Part of me is like, did when you clinch the division in mid-September, is it just too much time off? Too much time not playing in, meaningful games? Is it the layoff in between the end of the season and the NLDS? Or, was it just Philadelphia was just a better team at the right time? It's so many things you can really, throw at it. And, honestly, all those things I just said may not be wrong. Okay? It may be all of those things. It was raw. And, it's like I said on Sports Visions prior to Game 4, is that it was not going to be the pitching that was going to win the Braves the game. It was going to be their hitting. Because pitching keeps you in games in the postseason. I know the popular thing is pitching wins championships. That's not my philosophy. Pitching will keep you in games in the postseason, but hitting, timely hitting, will win you championships. The Braves didn't have the hitting. The pitching was great outside of Game 3. the pitching was great.
That was embarrassing. Giving up, you're totally right, but giving up 10 runs, that is awful. That is so sad in a game 3.
Exactly, but outside of game 3, think about it. Game 2, they give up 3 runs. Game 4, they give up 3 runs. 4 runs. So it's not like that they gave up a ton of runs in this postseason. Strider was serviceable in game 4 and game 1, okay? And even, before before Free got rocked in game 2, he was serviceable, okay? That's all you can ask for in the playoffs, is for your pitcher to keep you in the game. And our starting pitching did that, but the bats didn't back them up. And I don't care how good your pitching staff is, okay? Just ask LA, who had great pitching, but they all got hurt, and then Arizona mollywopped them. And just like Philadelphia, they came in, they had great pitching that was on at the right time, and they basically dominated the Braves. There's no other way to put it.
I think somebody needs to look at the playoff format for next year, because you have 3 out of the 4 teams that had a bye that are home. They didn't even advance out of the division series. And I think that's just too much time off.
And I'm going to add on this before we get out of here, guys. Paul Egan's came on the Sports Visions radio show on Monday. He's a guy that's been in the Colorado Rockies organization for over 30 years. That 2007 Rockies team, they won 21 of 22 games. But then, because they got so hot, the Red Sox, they played them in the World Series, played a 7-game series. As the Rockies, they swept their NLCS. They had to wait 8 days to play in the World Series. Well, guess what? When they played the Red Sox, who had just came off a 7-game brutal battle against the Indians, they swept the Rockies. So that layoff, it does have an effect. I don't care what anyone says, it does have an effect. But the Bravos, don't be irrational. Don't fire Snitker. But it definitely was embarrassing. I want to add on 3 hot takes. Auburn, I don't know if they make a bowl game. They beat Ole Miss. They could go 7-5, 8-4. I think that's a win for Hugh Freeze. Georgia.
You got to make a bowl game. I mean, you're talking about Arkansas, Vanderbilt, New Mexico State.
Those are winnable games.
If you're right, and I'm not going to discredit your opinion because it is not looking good, if they don't hit 6 wins, whew.
And you're talking, and I know the roster's not great, but if you're the Auburn Tigers, you at least got to make a bowl game.
That
Georgia
game's going to be huge.
And Georgia, Brock Bowers losing him. I'm not a believer in this schedule, guys. Missouri's at home. Ole Miss is at home. These are games that are tough, but they're home games. Georgia's going to win out, but not having Brock for the playoff, you saw how good Washington is. Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan.
I think Brock's back for the SEC championship.
There's no doubt. And unless Kirby says you're a first-round draft pick, just don't play, I feel the same way. I think it's Alabama and Georgia, SEC championship game. There's my hot take, and I'm going to end it with this, guys. Falcons. They're never going to shake the 500 bug unless they get rid of the 500 quarterback, which is Desmond Ridder. And I'm not going to put all the onus on Ridder because I can't believe Arthur Smith sometimes in his play calling. He literally was hired because he's supposed to be a great play caller, and I'm questioning his play calling. Like Josh Pate says, if you're not a coach, you shouldn't question those guys. But still head scratcher, Falcons. The schedule's so easy. There's no reason they don't win 11, 12 games this year, yet they're going to go 9-8, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
Paging Taylor Heineke. That's all I have to say. Paging Taylor Heineke.
That's where we're going to end it. We're wanting Taylor Heineke to be the starter for the Atlanta Falcons. That's how bad it is right there, quarterback position. Jonathan Hoppy, Jack Patterson, thank y'all so much for coming on. Where are y'all, for one, I'll let y'all, where everyone can watch y'all in highlights tonight, and where's y'all's game of the week before y'all get out of here? Hoppy.
Yeah, you know the drill, sports overtime. It's Auburn and Central this week. That is going to be massive. Pre-game coverage, all that good stuff. This is a big week. There are
huge.
A ton of games this week.
Massive.
It's like there's no one has a bye anymore, I guess. I don't know.
There's 6 Thursday night games.
Yeah, and then there's like 15, 6, I don't even know. There's way too many games that we can't even get to all of them, but we're going to do our best.
Amen to that, Hoppy. So you already know the deal, the Highlight Factory on the Prep Zone Friday night. Our game of the week, we're doing just a test of how big this week is. We'll be at Central Auburn, and we'll be at Manchester Slide County. Those are both going to be region championship games. So we will be there, and we got a ton of other games.
Northgate, Harris County.
Carver,
Monroe, Spencer, Northeast Macon.
Exactly. We talk about the games that are big for the region championships. Let's talk about the games that are going to be for playoff spots too. That Hardaway-Shaw matchup coming up too. That's going to be for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and that's on Thursday night. You can watch both them WRBL Highlight Factory on Friday, Sports Overtime as well. Tony Reese, Tyler Redmond, I love you. You will be on this show. I promise you that. I'm not big timing you. I'll have both of you on the show. Love you guys. Thank y'all so much. Thank you to everyone here at Happy Hour Bar and Grill for coming and tuning in for us. Thank you to Matt Call. Thank you to Dave Plata. Thank you to Coach Ryan Nelson, Wesley Graham, Camden White, Coach Corey Black. We will be live Thursday, Georgia, Alabama Sports Live, Facebook page and YouTube channel, Carver, Monroe, doubleheader, Harris County, Northgate, Calvary, Rock Springs, and then we got plenty of great games coming up, and we can't wait to be a part of that Glenwood playoff run coming up here in the next few weeks. From Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift Barringer, Jack Patterson, and Jonathan Oppie. We'll see you again. It's Georgia, Alabama Sports Live. Stay classy. Shout out to Wes Hargrove. Stay classy, everyone.